Exotic jungles are home to some of the craziest and rarest animals ever. So that's why I'm traveling to the Costa Rican jungles to flip 100 objects to find insane ant colonies, deadly creatures, and so much more.
And the trail I'm on in specific gets denser as you go on, so I'm going to be finding crazy animals by the end.
But to my surprise, under literally my first rock flip, I found something really good.
Oh, I've never found one of these in the wild, yo.
Yup, this is a vinegaroon, an insane, almost alien-looking creature that can literally shoot acid out the end of its abdomen. And thankfully, there happened to be a wild cricket right next to it. So of course, I took out some tweezers, I grabbed the cricket, and almost instantly, the vinegaroon snapped its claws at the cricket, and well, it instantly started to devour it. Dang, that is pretty brutal. As I continued a bit more into the jungle, I ended up checking under and around these leaves when I found this insanely camouflaged bug. This is a katydid, and when you take a close look at its body, it literally has the same exact vein texture that leaves have. And yes, they use this insane camouflage to surprise attack other bugs and eat them alive. Yeah, the jungle is home to some of the craziest camouflage ever. But unfortunately, under object number 3, there wasn't anything. So from now on, I'm only going to show stuff that actually has cool animals. It only took until object number 5 when I was searching under these leaves and found this. I had just caught this baby assassin bug in the middle of attacking an ant. Yes, if you can't tell by the name, assassin bugs are known for how deadly they are with their venomous proboscis mouths that they use to inject venom into their prey. And scarily enough, they sometimes will gather the corpses of their insect prey and carry them on their backs to use as a body shield. Yeah, sorry ant, you might have met a brutal end. And interestingly, literally only about 30 seconds away, I think I found where this ant had come from. Going through the middle of the trail was a massive line of one of the most iconic ant species. These are leafcutter ants. Yep, you probably have heard about these guys before. They have mandibles that act like scissors so they can cut little pieces of leaves off to bring back to the colony. If you look closely, you can even see that there are some of these way bigger leafcutter ants, which are the majors. These guys will help carry the bigger and heavier leaves and will also help defend the normal workers from predators trying to attack. It's pretty cool. Anyways, as I continued on the trail, I ended up flipping object number 10, where I found a pretty weird creature. At first, all I could see was this really small white and blue bug, but as I picked it up onto a leaf to get a better look, I realized that this was a butterfly. Yeah, you probably know how butterflies start out as caterpillars, and once they get big enough, they turn into a chrysalis for a few months until they finally emerge as a butterfly. But this butterfly I had found must have just emerged from its chrysalis because its wings were all curled up. So I decided to leave it be, so over the next few hours, it could develop those beautiful patterns on its expanding wings. As I continued down the rainforest trail, I found object 15, which was this tree, and on the side of it was an insane amount of flies.
Yo, I don't know if this shows up on the camera, but there was like 2,000 bugs right in front of me.
Yeah, I was honestly a bit confused on what exact type of bugs these were and why there were so many in one area. So I of course got out the backpack, and this time I grabbed out a GoPro on a stick. This lets me safely get a close view of what was going on in here, and to my surprise, these weren't actually flies. In fact, with their yellowish color and shape, it made me think it was some sort of species of stingless bee. And what sealed the deal is when I got my GoPro closer to the side of the tree, I saw this weird entrance tunnel sticking out with a bunch of bugs flying around. Apparently, some species of stingless bees construct these super weird funnels on the side of trees that act as the entrance to the hidden hives inside the trees where they keep all their valuable stuff like honey. It is crazy what lives inside some of these jungles. As I continued down the trail, I found some of these massive leaves. What was interesting is how some of them had been absolutely decimated and completely tore up, like this one that you could barely even tell was a leaf. Some super hungry caterpillar or leafcutter ants must have come through and done this, and my suspicion was confirmed because less than a minute down the trail, I found another line of leafcutter ants, but this time they were gathering up an insanely massive pile of cut up leaves, probably from those leaves I was just at. And as I followed the line of them even more, it brought me to where their nest was. You see, leafcutter ants don't actually cut up leaves to eat them. They actually bring the leaves all the way under their nests, chew them up meticulously, and spit them back out. And over a few days, a special kind of fungus grows on the chewed up leaves that the leafcutters will then eat. So in a way, leafcutter ants basically run a massive farming operation in their nests that no one would ever suspect. But the most interesting thing I found here was this line of the leafcutter ants bringing pieces of dirt to the nest to build it even bigger. But right next to all these workers, I noticed something super insane. There was a massive queen leafcutter ant being carried by a ton of royal royal escort ants. And based off the fact that this queen had its wings still, it told me that these royal escort ants were taking her to a safe place for her to take flight, so that way she could find some male leafcutter ants to mate with, so then she could tear off the wings to start her very own colony. Now, the next creature I found was actually the closest call I've had to getting hurt so far, because under this leaf, I had found an absolute Goliath of a caterpillar. Unlike normal caterpillars that have smooth skin, this thing was completely covered in these soft, fuzzy white hairs. And as you can see, it had this super creepy red skin underneath. Now, I got extremely lucky that I didn't accidentally touch this thing, because I later learned that this is a flannel moth caterpillar. And under all of this white fuzzy fur is thousands of microscopic venomous needles. Yes, and whenever you touch one of these caterpillars, it'll eject those needles into your skin, causing immense pain that doesn't go away for days. Phew, I dodged a bullet for sure. By this point in the jungle, I had gotten to a little section with a small river running through it, so of course I had to get out the backpack to once again grab out my GoPro from it. Since GoPros are waterproof, it lets me stick it under the water to see what kind of life is living in here. First of all, if you look very closely, you can see there is some super small water beetles which go around eating algae to keep the water clean. Then there was also some of these tadpoles I had found, which of course will turn into frogs sometime within a month. And also, once I had stick my GoPro into the deeper part of the river, I was able to find a decent amount of fish swimming around. They move fast, so it's sort of hard to see, but if we pause at the perfect time, you can sort of make out a few of them. One of them was down here sticking to the rock, which made me think it was some sort of freshwater goby or pleco species, which both have the ability to suction the bottom of their body to rocks and rivers, so then the water won't push them around and they can just chill near the bottom. Now, just right next to where the river was, I was flipping a few rocks and ended up finding something pretty gruesome. There was a straight up pile of bones from some animal. Yeah, I'm not kidding, and these must have been pretty fresh because the tendons and tissues were still connecting these bones to a bunch of feathers. This was almost certainly a Costa Rican bird, maybe something like a hawk or an escaped farm chicken that unfortunately was attacked by a crazy puma or some other deadly predator.
Nah, there's something dangerous around here. Okay, I gotta keep my eye out.
And speaking of crazy jungle creatures, well, as I was walking down this little stretch of road, I ended up finding a vulture menacingly sitting on a pole. Yeah, vultures are the scavengers of the animal kingdom and sit still to use their insane eyesight to locate animal corpses. It will then swoop down on them and absolutely decimate whatever food is left. But it's just so creepy to me how these things have completely feathered bodies, but then they just have these bald heads that they use to stick inside the rotting corpses. Very brutal once again. And continuing on the theme of brutal finds, the next thing I found was actually what I thought was a dead spider. Yeah, I found this spider that was completely limp, and if you take a close look at it, it had a thread of silk connecting it to the leaf above. This led me to believe that it must have gone into some sort of crazy fight with another creature, and unfortunately had lost. But after thinking about it for a bit longer, it actually made more sense that this was a spider molt. Yeah, if you didn't know, every few months, some spider species will literally crawl out of their old skin like an Alien movie once they've outgrown it, and it can sometimes just look like they've left a body behind, but in reality, the spider is still living happily in the forest. So hopefully we'll see some moving ones soon. Anyways, the next creature I found was actually something pretty funny, because as I was walking along the trail, I noticed a little white and green thing moving along the floor. But quickly, I realized that this was another one of those leaf cutter ants. But this dude happened to be carrying a little plant stem that was like 5 times longer than its body, and he was having a lot of trouble trying to move it since it was a lot bigger than him. It was funny because I could literally just pick up this ant by the plant stem, and I figured I should just help him out, so I moved him a bit in the direction he was headed in.
Alright, just wanted to move you a little closer to your target, buddy.
Now you see, by this point, I had spent so long on the trail that the sun was starting to set, meaning it was now night. This means I'm not even gonna have to flip rocks to find stuff anymore, since all the crazy nocturnal animals are just gonna be out and about since it is nighttime. And that was instantly proven because along the very first tree I checked, I saw this. It's a bark mantis, which of course is a praying mantis that are known for how deadly they are to other insects. But yeah, it just has the texture of bark so it can camouflage a bit better. But very interestingly, this is the perfect display of how this camouflage is needed, because right above this mantis was a yellow-headed gecko. Now, big mantises are known to take down and eat lizards. This mantis was certainly too small to do that. Right now, the only thing keeping this mantis alive from being eaten is its camouflage. And speaking of mantises, as I continued down the trail, the next cool creature I found was another mantis. Yep, but this was a much more iconic species. It's a tropical shield mantis.
Bro, this is so cool how much this guy camouflages. I mean, his back literally
literally looks exactly like a leaf.
Yep, this is probably some of the most impressive camouflage because while their body stands out a lot to potential predators, well, they have these massive leaf shields on their back so that when they're turned away, you basically cannot even tell that they're there. Oh yeah, and did I mention that these things have wings? I don't know why everything I find is so cool. But little did I know, I was just getting started because only a few minutes later, as I was scanning around some of the branches in this tree, I noticed what almost looked like some sort of moving vine. But in fact, this was actually my very first snake find of the trip. We can tell based off how extremely thin its body is and the shape of its head that this is a blunt-headed tree snake. These things are honestly cute with their massive eyes, and also they don't attack humans. They just slither through the branches looking for stuff to eat like these frog eggs I had found earlier. But yeah, they're honestly nothing compared to some of the snakes I'll be finding later into the night. Now my luck must have been insane during this night because the very next creature I found was just chilling on the side of some stairs on the trail. It was a tailless whip scorpion. If you're a fan of my channel, you may already know these things since I've had them in videos before. But what was so insane about this guy is that it had something in its claws that it was eating. After zooming in a ton, I got a close look to see that there was some sort of stinger in its grasp. This could only mean one thing. So I took out the backpack and from inside I grabbed out a UV light. If you didn't know, certain animals like scorpions glow under UV light, and when I shined my UV light at this tailless whip scorpion, the very thing it was eating of course started to glow. That meant that the stinger it was holding was actually the stinger of a baby scorpion. And this tailless whip scorpion had somehow caught it and was devouring it up. Oh my gosh, I had no clue these things ate scorpions. That is so cool. Now the next interesting animal I came across in the night was actually this big nest on the side of a tree. After getting a closer look, I realized that this was a black crazy ant nest. These guys are called crazy ants because, well, when I touched their nest to simulate a threat of danger, you could tell how they absolutely started to swarm that area super fast like a bunch of crazy people, even though there wasn't actually a real threat there. Don't let their small size fool you. They're known for taking down prey way bigger than themselves with teamwork. By this point in the trail, I had gotten to this small little abandoned pool area that I noticed had tons of tadpoles swimming around inside of it. But very interestingly, right on top of this cloth cover above the pool, I had found the most iconic frog in the world, the red-eyed tree frog. Yes, these guys can actually be quite rare to find in the wild since they only lay their eggs in still bodies of water. So you won't find them nearby flowing rivers or creeks, so it sort of makes sense that we found them near this abandoned pool, and it's likely that the rest of these tadpoles in here will also turn into these amazing frogs one day. Now, the next couple finds all rapid fire. First of all, there's this little katydid bug that had caught a roach and was eating it alive. Then there's this super tiny stick insect on a leaf. That, of course, looks like a stick for camouflage. Nice. Right after, I found this way bigger stick insect of a slightly different species hanging onto a branch. You could tell this one was a winged stick insect based off its thicker body shape. And also, when I got my hand close enough, it all of a sudden flashed its bright orange wings at me like a flashbang and flew away. Dang, these things actually look like a bird when they fly away with their wings. That's pretty cool. I was seriously finding so much camouflage stuff in the jungle this night, like this thing. It may just look like an ordinary lizard at first, but it's actually a helmeted iguana. Not only do they have this sick head shape that just sort of looks like a chameleon's head shape, but they also have the ability to change the color of their skin just like a chameleon. Yep, you see how this one has a green body to match the leaf it's on? Well, only a few minutes later, as I was scanning through the branches nearby, I found another one of these iguanas that this time was brown, even though it too was hanging onto a green object, so I don't know why it chose to be brown. It's kind of a bad color to choose, but anyways, still pretty cool, and yes, they actually do change your color. Now, by this point in the trail, I was dead set on finding one of the many deadly venomous snakes that Costa Rica is filled with. So I passed up literally every boring little bug or even spider that I found to keep searching. And by some stroke of luck, right at the end of the trail, I came across this small dirty pond. After looking around it, there of course was a snake. I couldn't tell what exact species it was at first though, so after putting a zoom attachment up to my camera, it let me see that this was a fer-de-lance pit viper, the most dangerous snake in all of Costa Rica. It was a good thing that this thing was on the opposite side of the pond from me because they have these massive hollow fangs that if you're unlucky enough to get bit by, inject a potent venom into you. And yeah, this dude was just staring directly at me. This is the perfect reminder of why you gotta be so careful recording these videos. Anyways, I was pretty much at the end of the trail by this point, and the final two animals I found, thankfully, were pretty cool. Because first of all, there's this giant fishing spider floating on the water. These guys will wait for fish to swim under them and then swim under the water to attack them. It's pretty crazy. But even cooler than that was this massive sleeping basilisk lizard sitting on a branch above the water. You see, these guys have a special name in Costa Rica. They're called the Jesus Christ lizard. Because like Jesus Jesus Christ, who can walk on water, these lizards can do the same exact thing when they're in a life or death scenario. Their feet are designed in a special way to repel water, and when they move extremely fast, they can kind of just defy the laws of physics and yeah, literally just walk in the water. But of course, since this guy was sleeping, I didn't want to disturb him, so I just left him be. Well, this was probably the most successful rock flipping video I've had, and even though most of the stuff I found wasn't even through rock flipping, hopefully still found it interesting how much insane wildlife there is.
Yes, sir. Let me know, guys, where I should go next to flip rocks in the world. Also, as of today, there's super big news in regards to the channel, because as you guys may know on the merch website, I've been showing off a ton of the biggest supporters that buy the merch, but now once a month, we're going to have a fan of the month.
And our first fan of the month is Beatrice. Yep, Beatrice is the fan of the month because just look at her. She is completely decked out with tons of the Terra Green plushies, the activity book, a shirt, and even the trading cards. Oh my gosh, you are a super fan. Thank you so much for the support, Beatrice, and hopefully you enjoy being fan of the month. If you guys want to try and become the next fan of the month, head to TerraGreenStore.com and it should have all the instructions there of how to sign up. But yeah, seriously, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and hopefully you enjoyed it. And yeah, I got to go now, and yeah, bye.